Today I want to talk about a really iconic watch. It's this Cartier Tank. It's a beautiful watch. It's iconic. It's a classic. Everybody's seen it. There's a reason why everybody likes it. I wasn't looking for this watch when I bought it. I was actually not even trying to buy a watch. I have recently bought my uh, long jeans 18 karat gold dress watch that I wear. This is only one out of 10. There's only 10 of these ever made. Of course, it's 18 karat gold, solid gold. So it's that's my dress watch. That's the watch I have. I did a video about this watch a while back, and this has been my dress watch. I really love it. I enjoy it. It's a good size. It's a good watch. I think it's beautiful. Nobody really knows what it is when I'm wearing it, but I still bought that Cartier tank. Before we go any further, I'm going to show you guys the watch that I'm wearing today. Today I'm wearing an Omega Geneve. They call this a silver bark dial. I don't know if you guys can see the texture. It is a manual wind, but I really love that dial. Silvered bark. That's what they call this. And this is a 35 millimeter Omega watch, and I love it. It's also one of my dress watches. I don't really wear dress watches that much, or I didn't used to wear them too much. Now I am again. Like, it doesn't matter where I'm wearing what I'm wearing. I'll wear it if I want to wear it. I'll wear it. And this is what I've been wearing my dress watches a lot more lately. Anyways, let me tell you guys a story about how I got this watch. But before we get there, there's a story before that story, which is really important. Many years ago, about 10 years ago, I had my first watch repair shop. And it was a small business, and I had my wife and my daughters were really young, and I was struggling. The money wasn't there. I was fixing watches a lot, working a lot, but I really wasn't, it was really difficult to pay my bills and run a store and fix watches and overhead on a store or business. So it was a really difficult time in my life. I was going through a rough time, but I realized that my daughters still needed, a little bit of vacation time or getting out of town for a little bit. So I decided to take them to Disneyland. Back then, I couldn't really afford, a trip like that. It's expensive anyways, but with two kids and a wife and bills, it was really expensive. But I decided I'm gonna take them one day, a Saturday. So we left early, like I think 2 in the morning. We left from the city I used to live at. It's about a 8 or 9 hour drive. So it's an 8 hour drive. So we headed out there. We got there. We spent all day in Disneyland till they closed. Then I was driving back because I had a little bit of money, but I couldn't afford hotels or expensive restaurants or anything other than just going to Disneyland and coming back. So my idea was I'm going to drive all night over there, spend all day, and then drive all night back. And, at least I was going to make the sacrifice so that my daughters would, at least enjoy one of their summer days in Disneyland. Unfortunately, on the way back, I was driving by Palm Springs around that area in California, and my car broke down. And it was the battery. The battery busted. I had no option. This was in the middle of summer. It's really hot down there. It's a desert. I had to stay in a hotel, so I barely made it to a hotel. We stayed there. And, there's nothing I could do but sleep and rest, and then the next day continue. So early in the morning the next day, I would say 7, 8 in the morning, I start walking around that town looking for a parts store to buy a battery. I'm walking down these streets, and I find a pawn shop, but it was closed at that moment. So, I did see the pawn shop, and I was always interested in buying, more watches for my store or for me or whatever. So I see the store, and I'm thinking, well, I gotta go get the battery. So I walk over. I finally find a parts repair store. I buy a battery. I carry it back all the way to where the car was, broke down. I put the battery in, and by then I think it's around 10 in the morning, and that pawn shop was open. So I put the battery in the car, and I said, I'm going to test drive this car. And, of course, the test drive was going over to the pawn shop. I go in the pawn shop, and I'm looking at what they have, and they had a gold Omega watch. Solid. The case was solid gold. I think it was 14 karat gold. Solid gold for $400. It had a nice leather band. But the case, it's a $400 Omega, solid gold, even 10 years ago was a great, great deal. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford it. But I scrapped money from where I could. I went back to the hotel. I asked my wife, how much do you have in your account? Then I got what I had in my account, the cash that we had, and I did get the 400, which in reality, $400 is not a lot, but in reality, also it was everything I had at that moment. And buying I think I paid like $200 for the battery and like 150 for the hotel, plus the 400 for the watch. That's all I had. But as anybody that's ever had a business, you know that when you find a deal, you do what it takes. You buy it. I bought it on the way back. My wife was, of course, telling me, why did you do that? What happens if we break down again? We don't have any money. And then, fortunately, we made it okay back to town. I cleaned up the watch. And that was a watch I really wanted to keep. It was beautiful. It was an Omega Seamaster. It was beautiful, solid gold. Of course, I had a client for it. I had clients that were looking for stuff like that all the time, and they had money. And I did have to sell it. And that's one watch that I always regret selling. I only bought it to sell it. I wish I could have bought it for me, but back then I could not afford that watch for me. So even if it's just $400, I couldn't afford it. Now this year, I got to take my family on a vacation to, again, we went to Disneyland. We hadn't been there since that time, about 10 years ago. So we went back to Disneyland. This time I was fortunate. I was able to spend a whole week over there, and it's a different stage in life. So I was okay. So we spent a whole week over there. It was really nice. And we're driving back. We rented a van. So my wife and daughter were sleeping. They were really comfortable. And we drove by that little town again. And I was driving and I was thinking, this time I was rested. My mind was clear. Everything was good. I was thinking, I'm gonna stop by that little pawn shop again, see if I find something. And I think we're all creatures of habit. We find something good. We go to a good restaurant or a good place or somewhere good, and we keep on going back to that place. We always think we're gonna find the same or something similar. So I stopped by. I didn't wake up my wife or my daughters. I just pulled into that little town, Googled that pawn shop, found it, drove right in it. And I was looking at what they had, and the guy had some really nice watches. He did have two of these tanks. This one was for 600. He wanted 600 for this one, and then he had another one for 900, which had a really nice band, and it was really good condition. And this one, the dial, I didn't know if it was a dial or the crystal had a really dark black mark here. You could probably see on the dial. There's still a little bit left there. Of course, it's silver. The case is silver, so it was all tarnished. It didn't look good. It's gold plated, but it's still a silver case. So it had some issues. The band was horrible. It was an ugly little band on it. So I told the guy, thinking of the $400 I had, spent on the Omega, I asked the guy, would you take 400 for it? The guy said, well, let me look it up. And he tells me, yeah, if this watch has been here for a while, you can have it for 400. And it was a risk because it didn't look like it looks right now. But it was a risk. But I was okay, if anything, I can, sell the movement, sell parts, because my dad's got a watch repair shop. I mean, just in parts, I would have the 400. Of course, I brought it home. I cleaned it up. And it's beautiful. I ordered a band. And this is a watch that I can keep. The Omega, when I bought the Omega, is a watch that I wanted to keep. But I was at a different stage in my life. I couldn't keep it. I wish I had that watch. I really do. Maybe in my mind it's grandier than it really is, but in my mind it's one of the watches that just because of life I couldn't keep. I had it in my hands. It was mine for a few days, but it was never really mine. Now this watch, I don't really need it. I have my dress watch, but I love it. When I say iconic, this is iconic. This watch, a mile away, anybody can tell what it is. It's a watch that I really, really enjoy. I was born in the 70s, so I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and my dad worked in jewelry stores. In the back jewelry stores, they used to have a section where the jewelers were at, the watchmakers. And my dad was always fixing these watches. This is a very iconic watch that I remember. It's only 23 by 30 millimeters, so it's really a small watch. But I saw a lot of men, important men, businessmen, people that used to go into jewelry stores that had money back then, wearing these watches. So even though today's trends, the watches are bigger and different, I have no issue wearing this watch. I mean, this is a watch that I grew up watching really important people or anybody wear. This is a watch that to me it's a unisex watch. A male or female can wear it. I think that I have no issue wearing it. I have 44 millimeter watches and 42s and 38s and anything like that. And this watch I have absolutely no issue wearing. Sometimes my wife wears it too. She likes it. I have two daughters and they really like it. I don't loan them to them too much because it's kind of a vintage watch, and eventually one day it's probably gonna be somebody else's, my wife or one of my daughters. But for now, I'm gonna enjoy it. I just wanted to do this video talking about this watch a little bit, and thank you guys for watching. I haven't done videos in a while because it's the middle of summer and I've been really, really busy with air conditioner work, but I will get back to making some more watches. And anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.